Sunshine presents a richly layered cinematic experience, delving into the complex interplay between science and faith, and the symbolic power of the sun. As a scientist intrigued by spirituality, my perspective of this film has evolved significantly since my initial viewing, prompting me to engage with it through a wholly different lens. One prevalent misconception regarding the third act of Sunshine revolves around the notion that its themes are disjointed from the rest of the film, often attributed to the perceived disparity of Pinbacker's role in the narrative. However, upon thorough examination of this film, it becomes evident that the groundwork for the third act is meticulously laid out through the preceding first two acts. From the initial depiction of Dr. Searle's spiritual awakening in the observation room, to Kaneda's careful inspection of Pinbacker's video logs, profound themes of spirituality, though sometimes overshadowed, intricately weave through the storyline, imbuing it with a profound emotional depth. The narrative of the third act seamlessly reconnects these spiritual motifs, delving into the sun's transcendent power and humanity's quasi-religious reverence for it.
It's about the sun as a god in some ways, so it's about our response to the power of nature, and it's about deifying this thing and worshipping it.
This exploration of spirituality in Sunshine transcends traditional religious boundaries. It is simply a personal experience, focusing on the individual's intimate connection with the sun, the ultimate source of life. Director Danny Boyle, during an interview, aptly noted that the journey to encounter the essence of life within the solar system inherently introduces a spiritual dimension, irrespective of one's background or beliefs. To expand on that, here's an excerpt from Sunshine's script book by the movie's writer Alex Garland. A crew is en route to a godlike entity, the sun. The sun is larger and more powerful than we can imagine. The sun gave us life, and can take it away. It is nurturing in that it provides the means of our survival, but also terrifying and hostile, in that it will blind us if we look directly upon it, and its surface is as lethal to man as an environment can get. As the crew travel nearer to the sun, the majesty of the burning star fries their minds. The crew are hypnotized by it, or baffled by it, or driven mad by it. Ultimately, even the most rational crew member is overwhelmed by his sense of wonder as he falls into the star. He believes he is touching the face of God. But he isn't. The sun is godlike, but not God, not a conscious being, not a divine architect. And the crew member is only doing what man has always done, making an awestruck category error when confronted with our small place within the vast and neutral scheme of things. Director Danny Boyle felt differently, again from Alex Garland's script book. He believed that the crew were actually meeting God. I didn't see this as a major problem, because the difference in our approach wasn't in conflict with the way in which the story would be told. The two interpretations that could be made from the narrative were the same two interpretations that could be made from the world around us. In that respect, perhaps the difference was even appropriate. As is stated by Garland, these differing perspectives did not complicate the story. On the contrary, this duality added an extra layer of depth to the characters and the narrative, allowing the audience to make their own interpretation. As the ship's psychologist, Dr. Searle finds solace in moments spent observing the sun, finding both daunting enormity and unparalleled awe in its sight, turning the act of simply beholding it into an almost existential ritual, recognizing and almost welcoming this cosmic connection.
Of sensory deprivation trials tested total darkness on flotation depths. And the point about darkness is you float in it. You and the darkness are distinct from each other because darkness is an absence of something. It's a vacuum. The total light envelops you. It becomes you.
As I listened to Dr. Searle's accounts, I couldn't help but draw parallels to the Sufi concept of fana. This notion can be best described as the annihilation of the individual soul within the boundless expanse of God. Alternatively, it signifies a state of spiritual unity with the divine, where the self or ego is extinguished or annihilated. A common literary metaphor illustrating this concept is the moth and flame, symbolizing the seeker's quest for absorption into the divine essence.
The flame is the only thing the moth really wants. And as long as the flame is at a distance, the moth longs for it. Now it approaches the flame until it gets 3 inches away. And then there is this recognition, oh my God, In order to achieve what I long for, I have to die. And it moves away from the flame again. But all it wants is the flame. So it comes back and it gets to within 2 inches of the flame. And then this fear again. In order to have what I want above all else, I must cease to be as a moth. I must become the flame.
Dr. Searle, Captain Kaneda, and Kappa all undergo experiences in their final moments that echo the moth and flame analogy. While some of his crew members may dismiss his experiences in the observation room, those who outwardly project composure may actually be grappling with comparable indescribable emotions. Cassie and Kappa, for example, the pilot and the physicist, exhibit outward calm but grapple with traumatic nightmares of plunging into the sun.
Let me guess. The surface of the sun? Only dream I ever have. Every time I shut my eyes, it's always the same.
These characters embody diverse ideologies and varying degrees of spirituality and logic. Searle, Kaneda, and Pinbacker stand as embodiments of faith. Searle in awe, Kaneda in inspiration, and Pinbacker in devotion. Cassie and Kappa could be categorized as wildcards. While not explicitly spiritual, they both experience character-defining moments that diverge from the purely rational scope of the mission. Cassie, for instance, prioritizes morality over logic, evident when she votes no to Mace's proposal to kill Trey.
Cassie.
I know the argument. I know the logic. You're saying you need my vote. I'm saying you can't have it.
Kappa provides an interesting contrast between science and faith, as we watch him undergo the most notable character arc. Initially driven by unwavering reason, Kappa's instincts appear to evolve at the story's climax. Despite recurring nightmares of falling into the sun, his demeanor shifts upon successfully detonating the payload. Instead of fear, he finds peace and embraces the light, symbolizing a newfound sense of tranquility. Despite the ongoing narrative questioning the necessity of Pinbacker's character, he holds profound thematic importance, serving as a pointed allegory for religious fundamentalism. Pinbacker embodies the extreme side of religion and faith, his fanaticism fixated on the destructive power of the sun. He thinks human life is insignificant and shouldn't get in the way of what God wants. According to his beliefs, letting the sun and humanity perish is necessary to reach heaven.
When he chooses for us to die, it is not our place to challenge God.
This is evident in his submissive act of prostrating before the sun, as well as his arrangement of the lifeless bodies of Corazon and Cassie before their inevitable demise. Pinbacker shares a common fixation on the sun with Searle and Kaneda, yet each interprets it differently. Searle's response is driven by emotion, while Kaneda remains rational and analytical throughout. In contrast, Pinbacker perceives the sun through a lens of religious significance.
The last man alone with God. Am I that man?
Symbolically, Pinbacker represents an unworthy soul confronted with the divine, resulting in his descent into madness and physical ruin. Conversely, Kappa, deemed worthy, faces the sun unscathed, symbolizing his acceptance and transcendence. The film's core revolves less around space travel and scientific exploration, and more around the interplay of faith and reason. Every decision and conflict within the narrative embodies the tension between logic and emotion, with each character occupying a unique point on the spectrum between spirituality and atheism. A scene that encapsulates the film's spiritual essence occurs when Kaneda is engulfed by the sun, prompting Searle to inquire, "What do you see?" What does one truly see when they look into the face of God? It is what drives Dr. Searle's obsession, Kaneda's curiosity, and Pinbacker's devotion. each member longing to understand the incomprehensible. For it is these questions that drive the narrative for Sunshine from the very beginning, as we witness Dr. Searle in the observation room, to Kappa's final moments when time and space distort, producing an undefinable moment of bliss and serenity. Sunshine evokes a profound spiritual experience that lingers with you, igniting your curiosity and prompting contemplation about humanity's place in the expansive cosmos. It prompts reflection on our existence and purpose, compelling questions about what we are meant to achieve and our significance in the grand scheme of things.